Howdy, howdy. I am Johnny Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about the Wave XLR. So what is the Wave XLR? Well, if we were to consult the Oracle, aka the box, it is a microphone interface and digital mixing solution. And for you non-techie people, you basically are able to take a really awesome XLR microphone like this one and record directly into the computer without a need for one of those big mixing boards. And it's really an alternative to the products like the Scarlett Focusrite, those kind of USB audio interfaces. And I picked up this one just because I really like the way it looks, and it's so small. It takes up about a finger on my desk in terms of widths. And I have a bunch of crap on my desk here. And so it fits it really well. But I got this because I think it would be a great solution for hobbyist podcasters, meaning when you're a podcaster who doesn't have access to a studio, or you don't want to shell out a ton of money for all of the equipment that you would need in order to use one of these. Again, this is an alternative to the Scarlett Focusrite. You could go get one of those. But more often than not, hobbyist podcasters will just go out and get a USB microphone. And the issue with those is it just doesn't give you the same sound quality that an XLR microphone offers. And if you want to be able to record directly into your computer, if you're interviewing somebody online through Zencaster or Zoom or Riverside or Squadcast or any of those podcasting platforms, you're going to need something like this, like the Wave XLR. So we'll dive into what's actually in the box. So it comes with obviously the physical product, and I'll show you that in a second. We'll jump over to the iPhone cam. But what comes built into it is a studio grade preamp, meaning things that you would have to maneuver physically by hand, either with knobs or dials, like your plosives, de-essing, things that you would add in post. That's all built in here. I haven't applied any plugins or anything as I'm recording this, and I can hear the built-in pop filter. I can hear the de-essing that's in there. It also comes with anti-clipping technology. I don't think you can read that. I can read it, but trust me, it's on the box. The anti-clipping technology is really awesome, meaning that if you are wanting to get a lot more gain out of your microphone, you don't have to worry about your audio clipping, meaning that it just blows out the listener's ears. You can get a lot of gain from your microphone without worrying about having to fix that in post or throw out the recording entirely because it was clipping like crazy throughout. There's also a phantom power option, meaning that there's two types of XLR microphones. You can record with either a dynamic microphone, this one, or a condenser microphone. And with condenser microphones, you need a little bit of extra kick, a little bit of extra gain. And that's where your phantom power comes in. And there is an option on the Wave XLR to add that phantom power. There's also zero latency monitoring. So if you're streaming and you want to hear how everything is coming out live to the viewers, it has that built in as well. There is a multifunctional control dial, meaning that everything is done off of one dial. It's very plug and play. And finally, there's a capacitive mute sensor, which is way too wordy for saying that there's a mute button on the top where I can just tap it on the top and mute myself. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over to the iPhone camera, and I'm going to show you the Wave XLR. All right, as you can see, this is the Wave XLR. I've put my AirPods Pro case next to it just so you can get something to compare it to size-wise. So what I have the setting on here is the headphone setting. So if I have really sensitive ears or I'm actually hard of hearing, I can change this to hear myself at a lower level or a higher level without changing the gain input of my microphone, which is really great. And to switch between modes, I just give this button a click and it switches. So that is the latency monitoring, the mixing monitoring. And so if I want to hear myself while I'm streaming, hear everything else that's going on, I just change that dial. And if I click it again, we will go over to the microphone. So here's where I've got my gain at. If I have a really booming voice, I can turn my microphone down. Or if I have a really soft voice, I can turn my microphone up. And again, that clipping technology allows us to turn it up as much as we want without clipping. So here is where we find our phantom power. Now I have a dynamic microphone, so I don't have the phantom power on, but in order to turn that on, I would just hold this down instead of pressing it and it turns on, and I hold it down again and it turns off. So the last thing on here is the mute button, which is on top. You'll see that there. And if I just you'll see how it turned red and I was muted, and I tapped it again and it turns off. So going to the backside of the actual XLR, we've got our plug-in on the far right that allows me to plug the XLR into the computer. This is not the cable that it came with. This is a MacBook charging cable. The cable that it does come with is a USB to USB-C, whereas this cable is USB-C to USB-C. There's also a 3.5mm headphone input, and then obviously our XLR microphone input. So you might be asking yourself, well, how much does something like this cost? It is about $160, give or take, with the shipping that you would pay. And that's about in line with other products that are similar to this. If I were to look up online the Scarlett Focusrite, you can get a similar one for $120. But as I'm looking at it, there's a lot more knobs and buttons that makes it more confusing. The thing that is the biggest selling point for me on this is the ease of use. You really just plug it in and you start using it. And it sounds great. I love the built-in preamps, are incredible. I'm saying my P's right into the microphone and they're being filtered out as I say them, which is incredible. I guess if I were to think of cons would be that there's only one XLR input, and you can get something like the Focusrite Scarlett. Have I been saying that wrong? Focusrite? Have I been saying Focus Scarlett right? Who cares? The Focusrite Scarlett, you can get a two XLR input, meaning you can plug in two of these microphones for about the same price as this one. So that would be a con for that. That's pretty much it. It's a great product. I would highly recommend picking it up over the Focusrite. I think it is superior. It's smaller. It looks sleeker. If desk aesthetics is something that you care about, I'm very happy with the product, and I'm going to probably be using it a lot more. I'll definitely be recommending it to podcast hosts that I work with if they're going to be recording from home. Thanks so much for riding it out with me on this video. I know I'm a little rusty. It's my first time getting back into making videos regularly, so I appreciate it. If you did enjoy this video or get some kind of value out of it, I would really subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, like the video, all of those good things, and I will see you on the next video.